Hello, you've just landed in the music landing zone. If you don't know, I am reviewing every Takanaka album from 1976 all the way to 2009's Summer Road. If you're watching this in the future, you can see my entire playlist, all of these reviews, right here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. If you could like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things that help new YouTubers out. I'm trying to reach the Takanaka community. I'm trying to reach the music fans in general. I want to hear from you guys. Let's go. This is 1978's On Guitar. This album is unique in the Takanaka discography. Well, why is that, you ask? Well, this album is mostly cover versions of songs. I even pondered whether or not I should include this in this series. But listening to this album, it became clear, and I think it was somewhat clear before as well, but listening to it again before I started this series, this album, even though every song on the album, apart from two, are credited to artists other than Takanaka himself, this album still shows Takanaka near or at his best. It is fantastic jazz fusion. It is taking these tracks and, making them sound as if Takanaka himself had composed them. This is incredible stuff. I'm telling you, incredible stuff. This album, in terms of sound and vibe, might technically remind me most of his previous album, An Insatiable High. Although I think this album is recorded and produced a little bit better. An Insatiable High kind of has one or two production choices that I don't necessarily agree with 100%. But still great record, that one. But yeah, this album takes that kind of more Puritan jazz fusion idea and absolutely runs with it. I mean, and that makes a lot of sense because, again, most of this album is not composed by Takanaka himself. So I'm assuming, I actually don't know this, I've not researched any of the artists that he covers here, but I'm assuming that these are all jazz fusion slash, just jazz pieces that he's made his own here. So, yeah, it's a great vibe again, really great to throw on and, listen to. It could be background music, but it's not really like super background either because it's just got so much going on. It's got some of my favorite Takanaka sounds, like the guitar sounds found on here, and the bass sounds, and the drums sound great. The whole band that he has assembled here sound fantastic. Maybe the best of any Takanaka record so far in terms of sound, production, that end of the music spectrum. So yeah, like a lot of Takanaka stuff, I discovered him in the summer of 2023 in a big way. I became kind of obsessed, and here we are. And in terms of this album on guitar, this is a strange album in the history of my Takanaka fandom because when I first, really first got into him, this actually was one of my more listened to of his classic era, in air quotes. And I can see why going back to it. It just sounds fantastic. I think after I discovered that most of these were covers, it kind of put me off in a way because I'm just, I just want pure Takanaka. you know, or as close as I can get to that. So this album actually kind of fell out of favor in terms of my listening to it in the past, however, sort of years. But going back to it now, it's great. It's fantastic. I mean, yeah, it's wonderful. And apparently, detail I did not know until recently, um, really cool actually, in my opinion. This album was part of a trio trilogy put out by the label on guitar, on bass, and on drums. I think it were the three. So maybe one day I'll listen to those albums. I don't know. But we're here talking about on guitar, and yeah, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So, going track by track, we have Breezin', written by, I'm going to, once again, I say this in most of my videos, I can barely speak English, so please forgive my terrible pronunciations of anything that's not English, and honestly, sometimes my terrible pronunciations of things that are English. Yeah, so Breezin', written by Bobby Womack. Womack. Uh, Takanaka's version of this is, fantastic. It brings you in with the vibe. It's a little bit of a slower, more moody vibe here, but just great stuff. Not my favorite on the album by any means, but no problems here. Fantastic playing, sounds fantastic, all these things. Track 2, I'm gonna get, yeah, I don't know how to pronounce these things. Blue Caraco? Blue Caraco? I don't know. I think this is an alcoholic beverage. Um, I'm not much of a drinker, so I have no idea how to pronounce this. Um, yeah, this one is credited to Takanaka, so thumbs up for me. Uh, yeah, and this one does kind of, um, this album has a great track flow in general. This one kind of just seamlessly from breezing into this one. I think this is another bit of a more laid back track. Um, Fantastic vibe, sounds amazing. What more can I say? Track 3, Just the Way You Are, written by Billy Joel. I might recognize that name. Don't know. This is maybe one of my favorite on the album. The main rhythm sort of thing going on here is very memorable, very catchy. The guitar tone is fantastic, tasty, delicious guitar tone here. Um, Fantastic rhythmic interplays, just fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Mambo Jumbo, written by C. Town Perez Prado and R. Carl, is, kind of taking a vibe that, would fit in with Takanaka very well here, and, it does fit in very well to his sound. Another great track, Samba Pati by Carlos Santana, another thumbs up. This is just a really, really solid album. There's not really a ton of dips in quality here. Not really at all. This is a start to finish kind of record again. We are in the Takanaka classic era. Maybe that doesn't shock you that we have just a bunch of fantastic stuff here. Rainbow by Takanaka, it says on the notes here. Fantastic, just all these tracks, just love, love, love. Even if this is one of my nowadays less listened to albums, it was almost nostalgic for me, even though it was only a couple years ago. Nostalgic for me to be listening to this album more again recently, because again, at the beginning of my Takanaka journey, On Guitar was a staple. It fell off quite a bit later on, and now revisiting it. So some of these tracks aren't as burned into my mind as some of this other stuff, but yeah, great stuff. Um, that's the Way of the World. I think I remember this being another one of my favorites on the album. Just gorgeous, written by C. Stepney, M. White, V. White. Thumbs up again. We Are All Alone, written by Boz Scaggs. Um, with an album this consistent and, great, it almost does become difficult to distinguish and differentiate some of my opinions on the tracks, because it almost does sound like one of those albums where you just put it on and to my ear it almost sounds like, really, really well in the way of it's one experience. This isn't like track one, track two. It's very one track and the next. Not quite as much as, like a Pink Floyd concept album or something, but it's great. What can I say? So yeah, for my score rating out of 10, Masayoshi Takanaka on guitar, I am going to be giving a rock solid 8 out of 10. It's great. If you've not heard this one for some reason, go listen to it. Tell me what you think. Like, share, comment, subscribe, everyone. I want to reach the Takanaka fans. I'm just some guy on the internet with a phone. You are the Takanaka community. I want to hear from you. Is this one of your favorite Takanaka albums? Do you think it's overrated? Do you love it? What's the deal with this album? Tell me. Let me know in the comments. Yeah. Fantastic again from Takanaka. What can I say? Thank you. I will see you on the next review.